I tonight, bring it tomorrow. You still owe it. Christina, could you do me a favor, Maggie? It's Farley upstairs. A couple of 8th grade girls borrowed a stapler from me while they were working in the hallway. Could you just ask Christina if they happen to leave it in her classroom? It's a little black, cheesy looking stapler, but it's the only one that I can depend on. All right? All right, thanks. Hey, Liz. Hey, girls and guys. Hi, Anna. Well, I had 2 of your eggs this morning, man. They were good. Wash them all first. Crack them. Make some scrambled eggs. Very good. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
All right. We were talking yesterday. We're about to wrap up our first slideshow on religious development, Second Great Awakening, and we had. Katie, did I give you your? You got yours back.
Yes.
Is Alyssa here today?
Yes.
Blake will be handling in, I suppose, in a moment, huh? And the Bobbsey twins are here, right? All right.
For English? Yeah.
Guys? That's a much better effort. Don't sit down yet. Don't sit down yet, girls. I'm not even gonna have you do this.
Okay, good.
I'm not even gonna ask you to do this. Sounds good, girls, I'm telling you.
So did
You guys did a much better job on those 2 stimulus-based multiple choice questions than the day before. Everybody got both right. That's good. We're a work in progress. There you go. I like the tiara. All right. So, again, we're going to finish up with religion today, and we're going to talk a little bit about the establishment. We left off with the creation of religiously affiliated colleges. Sunday schools are going to provide basic education for working class children. Sunday schools, which is exactly as it sounds. Kids would attend religious instruction on Sundays, usually paired with some type of religious liturgy, some type of church service, and then after the church service, maybe in the afternoon on Sunday, or while parents are at church service, the children are attending some type of religious service. This is really going to take off during this period between the Great Awakening, 1790 and 1840, the idea of Sunday schools, and it continues today. Many churches today, many denominations have Sunday school church services, Sunday school services for children, while masses are going on. Children can get education in the Bible. Children can get education in the stories of the Bible. So this lives on today. Education and religion are going to become very linked during this period. There's going to be an effort to combine religious instruction with children's education. And this was totally by design, to make sure that children were getting, because of the emphasis of religion in society at this point, there was an emphasis to make sure that children were getting religious instruction. And it usually would be outside of regular church services, but it would be typically on a Sunday. I remember when I grew up in Albany and went to Catholic schools, grades K through 6, and kids who went to public school in Albany, and there was a ton of public schools surrounding my community when I was growing up in Albany. Kids who went to public schools would come to my Catholic school after school hours to get religious instruction in the Catholic school building, instruction that they couldn't get in a public school because public schools do not what? Public schools do not have formal religious instruction. So they would come to a Catholic school to get religious instruction afterwards. And it's consistent with this idea that religious instruction and education there was a huge emphasis on it during this period. Huge emphasis. Most people's morality during this period is going to be a Christian-based morality. Most people's morality is going to mirror what they saw in the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are the 10 guidelines, the 10 rules by which Christians are supposed to live and dedicate their lives. And that sense of morality, whether people are religious or not in our country today, that sense of morality, most of our moral and our laws are based in this ancient type of Christian teaching. We talk about morals, we're talking about what's considered right and what's considered wrong. And most of our right and wrong are directly connected to earlier religious beliefs of early Americans, and including the founders, going back as far as the founders and even before that. All right? So education and religious instruction were combined. They were very closely linked during this period. We got a couple of slides left. Let's wrap it up. 9. Impact on American democracy. So what does this religious emphasis, what effect does it have on the American political system during this period? Religious ideals of individual salvation are going to influence democratic ideals. People are going to start to believe that if they can achieve individual salvation by doing good works, if people can achieve salvation by doing good works while they're on earth, many Americans are going to start dedicating their lives to improving their society. And we're going to see an emphasis on equality before God translating into political equality. For example, fundamental belief of all Christians is that all people are equal in the eyes of God. God shows no favor toward blacks. God shows no favor toward whites. God shows no favors towards thin people, fat people. Every human being is a temple. Every human being is sacred to God. So what we're going to see during this period is we're going to see this emphasis on equality before God translate to, if people are equal in the eyes of God, in American society, we need to make sure that we're doing more and more to make sure that people are treated equally in society as well. Was that the case when our nation was founded? Were Americans, Palin, all treated equal under the law? in 1776 when we declared our independence. No. So what's going to happen here, girls and guys, we're going to see more and more Americans use their religious beliefs to stress the importance of political equality for all people, to include women, African Americans, Native Americans, foreigners, immigrants to the country. This emphasis is going to basically start, and it's not going to occur. I do this a lot, and I know I say this a lot in class when we're talking about other topics. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be a finger snap and then everybody's equal. No, sometimes it's painfully slow. But we're going to see a march, a slow march toward political equality. And these are the three groups. These are the three groups that are going to be most affected by this. Women, American women, African Americans, and Native Americans. Okay? Emphasis on equality before God will translate to political equality. Christians are going to be the leaders in this. Christians are going to be the leaders in this period who are going to start to question if we are, if we consider ourselves people of God, if we are Christians, then we have to not only show up in church on Sunday and believe and accept God's teaching and be the best people that we can be, we also have to kind of live that in our everyday lives. I used to have a priest when I was in school that said, you can come to church on Sunday for 90 minutes every Sunday and you're fulfilling your obligation to come to church. But he said, the real obligation in your life, and he was talking to a group of kids, the real obligation in your life as a Catholic and as a Christian is not the 90 minutes that you're in church on Sunday, but the what? What?
The beliefs or like the practices?
Yeah, not the 90 minutes you're at church, it's the rest of the week when you're out and about living your life. Are you living your faith? Americans start to put political equality as very important in their life. And this is what's going to motivate a lot of these reform groups that we're talking about. The abolitionists, the temperance movement, women's rights movement. Okay. Also, religion is going to increase participation in voluntary associations and civic life. Religious belief is going to require Americans to volunteer more in their communities. If something's wrong in a community, well, think about this. Up and down Route 7, up and down Route 22. If you go up and down Route 22 between here and the bridge, I always notice the signs. There's stretches of the highway that are adopted by different groups. What are the highway adoptees promising to do by adopting a section of the highway? If you look at the signs up and down Route 22, and they're all over the state actually, not just here in town, groups adopt sections of roads or highways for what purpose? Civic groups, youth groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. You ever seen the sign saying that this section of road has been adopted by the Boy Scout Troop 118? And every once in a while you'll see Boy Scout Troop 118 doing what on the side of the road? Picking up the trash, cleaning it up, cutting the lawn, cutting the brush. And this is what we're going to see during the period here. It's going to encourage people to get more involved in their community through volunteering and participating in civic life. When we talk about civic life, we're talking about life. Civics is the how people interact with their government, how people act as citizens. Are people being good citizens? Are people, and a lot of these motivations, a lot of the reasons people are doing this, are getting involved in volunteering and getting involved as leaders in their communities, is because their religion instructs them that they have to play an active role. Christianity is not really a religion, especially now, okay, in 2024. The expectation if you're a Christian in every country, not just America, the expectation is if you're a Christian and you're really practicing your faith, you have to get off your hands and you have to be active. You have to be involved. You have to be helping. You have to be willing to sacrifice. And volunteering and participating in civic life was a way that people could do that during this period. is there a connection between religious and political ideas? I gave you an example of one yesterday that I'm involved with, and that's not to say that that's the only one, but clearly there are connections between religious and political ideas. I have a very close friend, a very close religious friend, who is a very, very strong opponent of the death penalty. Lots of states in America still have a death penalty, meaning if someone commits a really serious murder and they're convicted, some states have the right, it's the law in some states, that killers who are convicted of murder can be executed. They can face the death penalty. And this woman that I know is a strong opponent of the death penalty. And her argument is largely religious based. Her argument in opposing the death penalty is that the Christian scripture, the Holy Bible, teaches us that human beings should not take life. Human beings should protect life. That is not to say that people who are convicted of horrible, horrible crimes shouldn't be punished. She believes that they absolutely should be punished, but she believes, because of her religious beliefs, that human beings shouldn't wantonly take the life of another person, even a person who's committed a horrible crime. So there you see, I mentioned yesterday my activities with the pro-life movement. I mentioned today a woman who's involved in her commitment to oppose the death penalty in certain states because she feels it is immoral. She doesn't believe that it's government's role to take the life of a person. And I kind of fall into that category too, personally. If I could share a personal anecdote with you, I think that someone who's committed a really serious crime, like murder, or killing a child, or butchering a family, or really something horrible, I think the punishment for that should be to make that person suffer and to make that person regret what they've done for the duration of their life. And I don't think killing that, I think killing that person in a lot of ways is putting the person out of their what?
Misery.
Yeah. Do we, any comments, any disagreements on that? Anybody have their own take on a particular, how about any of you, let's talk about this for a second. For any of you, is there a religious issue and a political issue that kind of, for each of you might, for any of you that might intersect with each other? Is there a political issue and a religious issue that's you have involved in your life that's near and dear to you? If there is one, feel free to share it. Clearly there are examples. We are all motivated in many ways. Our political beliefs are often motivated by our religious beliefs. Not all the time, but much of the time our political beliefs can be motivated by our religious beliefs. That's not really a surprise for a lot of people. Some religious groups have much, for example, I know some Christian denominations, some Christian religions support the death penalty because in the Bible, the whole concept of an eye for an eye. If someone takes someone's life, they should have their life taken in return. I subscribe to kind of a different point of view. What's cool about Christianity is that different denominations, they're open to different interpretations. They're open to different interpretations. All Christian denominations believe that the way to obtain salvation is through Jesus, is through faith, but you're going to find different variations and different rules and different fundamental beliefs of different Christian organizations. So I want you to be looking, though, for connections between people's religious beliefs. As we study the rest of the school year, I want you to be thinking, when we talk, for example, in a couple of months about Martin Luther King Jr., I want you to be able to look at Martin Luther King and his struggle for civil rights for African Americans in the 1950s and 60s, and I want you to be able to understand that Martin Luther King was a deeply religious man whose religious beliefs absolutely affected his political beliefs. His religious beliefs and his political beliefs were very, very closely connected. They were very, very closely connected, okay? And it's going to have an impact on our democracy throughout different eras, not just in the era that we're talking about, but throughout different eras. Last slide. Okay, challenges to established churches. We're going to see a decline of state-supported churches during this period. We're going to see a decline of state-supported churches. We're going to see a rise of both the Baptist and the Methodist Christian denominations. Baptists are going to be largely Southern denominations, mostly, not all, but mostly Baptist denomination will be African American led. Okay, you're going to see increased competition. I talked about this yesterday. You're going to see increased competition among churches for members. Okay, I went as a guest last Christmas. I have a friend who is Baptist. I went to a Baptist church Christmas Eve, last Christmas Eve, with my friend who's Baptist. I'm a Catholic. Okay? Two very, very different denominations. Both Christian denominations, but very, very different in how they pray, how they worship, how they interpret the Bible. Anyway, I was a welcome guest. They rolled out the red carpet for me. But when I went, as I was leaving, they handed me a card and a pen. And I made the mistake of filling out my personal information on the card with the pen. My name, my address, my occupation, and guess what I've been inundated with for the past 12 months? Letters and emails from the church wanting me to become a regular attendee, wanting me to become a member. So, and this goes back here to this period, very, very competitive. Very, very competitive for different churches. Also, greater religious freedom. People have more choices. People have more choices with the growth of denominations. And people can find a religion that, with choices, people can find a religion or a denomination that really suits them. And we're going to see that here. We're going to see that here. The knock on my church, and this has been this way for as long as I've been alive, and certainly before that, the knock on the Catholic Church is that the Catholic Church is not really tolerant toward the role of women in the church. And I would argue that's not true at all, but they do have restrictions on women becoming priests. Women in the Catholic Church cannot become priests. There's other functions for women in the Catholic Church, but they can't become priests. So a lot of women are turned off by that. So many women, because of that, will find or will look for other churches that better suit their needs. Lots of churches have women as ministers, women as not priests, but women as ministers and deacons, women who stand on Sunday at the church pulpit and give the sermon. Also, the Catholic Church, another criticism of the Catholic Church, especially for priests, Catholic priests are not allowed to marry. Catholic priests, male priests, are not allowed to marry while they are priests. And that has been that way for literally thousands of years. And a lot of people look at that as saying, okay, well, other Baptist church and other denominations allow their ministers to have husbands and wives. And so a lot of people might be turned off to the Catholic Church because Catholic priests can't marry. Not an issue for me, okay, but for some people it is. Well, with more religious denominations and more sects, S-E-C-T-S, okay, you have people being able to make the choice to practice what denomination they want to practice. And literally under Christianity, the umbrella of Christianity, you have hundreds of different churches to choose from. And a lot of them are going to get this start during this Second Great Awakening, this period that we're talking about. All right, last slide. Conclusion. Lasting impact on religion. Lasting impact. Review. Second Great Awakening transformed American religious landscape. Who can tell me the 50-year block that the Second Great Awakening took place in? Blake, 50-year block the Second Great Awakening took place in. 17 watt to 18 watt. 1790 to 1840. That's the period that we're really talking about when we talk about the Second Great Awakening. It inspired social reform movements that shaped 19th century America. That's a biggie. The Second Great Awakening is going to inspire social reformers. It's going to tell people, the Second Great Awakening is going to tell people, get off your butts and get involved and improve American culture, improve American society. It's going to serve as an inspiration for people to get involved. Okay, to get involved. Going to church on Sunday is not your only way to be a Christian. It is not even for a lot of Christians the most important way. It's what they do outside of church that matters. Are they showing up at church on Sunday? Yes. Are they living their faith through the week by being an example to others, by being kind, by being generous, by helping people in need, by donating to the poor, by housing the hungry, or by housing the homeless, by feeding the hungry? All these things are going to be inspired during this period. People are going to want to improve their society, and they're using their inspiration for that is often their religious beliefs. Okay, often their religious beliefs. This also increased religious pluralism and participation. Okay, more and more people who before the Second Great Awakening are not really religious in nature. A lot more people are going to become exposed to religion. Okay, whether they sought it out or not, people are going to see religion take a greater, play a greater role in society, and a lot of people are going to see that, and because it's surrounding them in all aspects of their lives, it's going to create interest in a lot of people who might have otherwise not been really inclined. Another thing that's probably true about religious belief during this time, there was probably a lot of pressure on people, peer pressure on people to practice some form of religion, especially Christianity. We do not have, as a constitutional republic, we do not have a government mandated religion. Okay? Separation of church and state. Government cannot compel people to practice a particular religion. But as a nation, we are an overwhelmingly Christian nation. Okay? As a nation, we are an overwhelmingly Christian nation, and certainly a lot of that, I think, comes from this period where people that subscribe to a particular religious belief, there must have been a lot of pressure on people with religion playing an important role around them. A lot of people probably got involved in religion because it was kind of expected of people to get involved in religion. How many of you, curious, how many of you attended church as young people with your families on a regular basis? Okay? All right? I certainly did. And when I was raising my children, they learned the expectation that if mom and dad attended church, then they were going to what? They were going to attend church as well. So religious beliefs tend to be passed down from generation to generation as well. All right? It's going to set the stage for future religious and social movements. There is no separating, and this is important. This will be my final comment on this before we go to the video. Final comment, there is absolutely no separating people's religious beliefs from their role in public life. People's religious beliefs are oftentimes very, very closely intertwined with who they are in public life. Do you think it's wrong to murder? Why? Okay, why? Why is it wrong?
Because you don't have the right to do that.
We don't have the right as human beings to kill other people. Okay? Is it wrong to steal, Ava?
Yeah.
Who says?
You just don't have the right to steal things.
Who says? Where did that thought originally come from? Where did the thought against murder and the thought against stealing? Where do those ideas originally come from? Did you say the Bible? Yeah, those are ancient religious beliefs. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. Okay? A lot of our legal system in the United States is rooted in Christian writings, in biblical writings. That is not to say that our legal system compels people to practice a particular religion. Absolutely not. But a lot of our laws, especially our foundational laws, are based on Christian teaching. So it permeates really all aspects of our life, whether we subscribe to a religion or not, which is fine if you don't. But whether we subscribe to a religion or not, there's no escaping the fact that religion has played an important role in the development of our republic. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you here today. Let's wrap up with the author video on this topic. Okay, here we go, Professor Shee.
One of the remarkably distinctive aspects of American society during the first half of the 19th century was the energy, vitality, and diversity of American religious life. Throughout the United States, people flocked to be a part of.
Got an email from this professor not too long ago. Somebody forwarded him one of my YouTube videos that I created a couple of years ago. It's on the topic of the Civil War. I was talking about maybe two years ago when I first started teaching this class to juniors and seniors. I recorded a lesson on the Civil War, which I thought was it was an average lesson. Well, one of my students forwarded it to him, and I got an email back from him. And first thing he said was, "Thanks for using my videos in your class. It's nice to know that somebody finds use for them." He says it took him about a month to film all the videos that we watched for all the chapters that will appear in this book. And he also gave me a little compliment. He said that you seem very enthusiastic about what I do. Would you guys agree with that? You get the impression, Lizzie, that I enjoy what I do? All right.
Churches and revivals and religious-based organizations. What makes it most remarkable is that some of these were very different religions. On the one hand, there was the emergence after the American Revolution of so-called rational religion, in particular the development of the Unitarian denomination, which believed in a much more inquisitive approach to religion rather than accepting as fact every word of the Bible and the idea of biblical mysteries and biblical miracles. At the same time, the Second Great Awakening, which emerged at the beginning of the 19th century and spread across the nation like wildfire, it tended to promote evangelical religious denominations like the Baptist and the Methodist and revivalistic Presbyterians. In addition, the Mormon faith emerged in the first half of the 19th century. So American life was characterized by a wide spectrum of religious opportunities and choices, and Americans flocked to become involved, engaged. In fact, many of them viewed their religious life as the axis of their experience on a daily basis.
Last comment for the day on religion. I feel kind of blessed that I live in a country where religious freedom is so abundantly available to everybody. There are countries on this planet today where if you do not practice the state-required religion, not only are you shunned, but your life could be in danger. There are countries that will execute you if you do not practice the state-mandated religion. So the fact that we live in a country where you have absolute and total religious freedom to practice any religion you choose, including not practicing a religion at all, count your blessings to live in a country that allows you that right that you obtain at birth. That is a natural right as an American that you enjoy, that we all benefit from, the right to practice a religion, any religion, including no religion. I count that as a blessing. There are people on the planet today that do not enjoy that. So did you guys coordinate today by purpose, or was this totally a coincidence? Okay. I'm liking them. I'm liking the Chuck Taylors. I'm liking them. All right. I have a few pairs at home. Maybe I'll wear them on tomorrow. All right. Let's all wear tomorrow. All right. Don't stiff me. If I wear mine tomorrow, you better have it. All right. All right. Let's take a look at our next PowerPoint. We're going to look at one of my favorite topics, and I kid you not when I say this. We're going to look at a topic called transcendentalism. There's a whole section of our reading devoted to this. I want to get as deep into this today as possible. Palin, question? No. This is a long word, okay? Transcendentalism is going to be something that we'll see develop during the 19th century as well in America, and it's interesting, it's unique, it is kind of out there in terms of its foundational beliefs. Let's talk a little bit about transcendentalism. What is transcendentalism? All right. So it's a philosophy, a philosophical and literary movement that is going to emerge in the U.S. in the 1830s. It's going to have its headquarters really in New York and Massachusetts. It's going to emphasize individualism, nature, and spirituality. It's going to emphasize individualism, following your heart, doing what you feel is best for you. It's going to stress nature. Matter of fact, transcendentalists view nature as where God really exists. Transcendentalists would argue that God exists in the beauty of nature. If you've ever woken up on a Sunday morning and looked out the window, or just rolled the window down, or put the window up in your room and just listen to the sounds that you might hear in your backyard, or listen to the crickets at night when you're falling asleep, a transcendentalist would look at that as an example of God existing in nature. All of the beauty that surrounds us in the natural world is evidence, according to a transcendentalist, of God's existence. And also spirituality. Transcendentalists are going to view spirituality as a personal relationship with God. Most transcendentalists were not members of an organized church. Their relationship with God is going to be one-on-one. All right? Key figures are going to be Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Margaret Fuller. And Ralph Waldo Emerson is pictured to your right there. He is one of the key members of the Transcendentalist movement. We'll get into this a little bit today and tomorrow, but let's take a look at our author's comments before we go to the next slide on Transcendentalism and see what they're all about.
During the first half of the 19th century, Romanticism spread like wildfire across Europe. Writers and poets, artists and intellectuals embraced the idea that there was more to life, more to the universe, than what scientists could investigate and explore and analyze. In the United States, Romanticism tended to emerge first in New England, centered in the area around Boston, and focused on an emerging group called the Transcendentalists. The Transcendentalists literally wanted to transcend the limitations of reason and objectivity and explore the more mysterious recesses of the soul, the unconscious, the unspoken, and the unseen world of spirit activity. The Transcendentalists were some of the most talented people in New England. Most of them college educated, most of them committed to communing with nature, being inspired by nature, and reading into nature some of the most important truths about human behavior. Although small in number, the Transcendentalists emerged as one of the most influential forces in American intellectual, cultural, and spiritual life. The Transcendentalists were led by powerful figures such as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, the Peabody sisters, and Margaret Fuller. Even though small in number, they generated a powerful influence in the shaping of the contours of American intellectual and spiritual life in the first half of the 19th century.
So I'm going to throw a number at you here, and I want you to tell me the Transcendentalists start to really promote their movement in the 1830s through their writings, through their poetry, through their novels, through their experiences that they had with nature. What else is going on in the United States during this point that might lead a group of people